Alólóńgì ní ti gàjà o, Dégúnlé olóńgì ní ti gàjà o, ojú mi ti tólé, ojú mi ti tóko, ṣẹ́rí nílé àgọ́dọ̀, ojú télé TV ṣó ní kẹ́ máa wò nílé, ojú télé TV, àwọn lèèyàn ṣáńkó, àwọn lèèyàn gbogbo mi ó sì ṣàǹkàrí àgbáyé, ojú télé TV, má yìí kò tiẹ̀.
But I know today, Dr. Abati will summarize the topic of the day because we are waiting for you and we know you will justice, sir. Thank you, sir.
My brother from way back night shift police, so it's already pre-judging. But I would like to say good evening to you all and to thank Thaddeus Abati and all the members of Message International for inviting me. Members of the ITO and Rachel, everyone else here, good evening. Well, I was told this event will be at 3 o'clock, but I do a program every Sunday between 4 and 6 p.m. So I had to go and do that first. That was why I arrived late. But I'm honored to be here, and I would like to thank Thaddeus Abati and Message International for the recognition. Now, 6th anniversary, it's not easy to keep any media business going. So congratulations to Thaddeus Abati and his team for keeping this dream going, for continuing to provide information, entertainment, and education, the original purpose, of course, of any major media enterprise. Now, he had asked me to say a few words about democracy in Nigeria and about the electoral process. I don't know, I tend to talk, plenty. But I think that this year is very important to all of us as Nigerians. It's the year where again we have had general elections. The 7th general elections since the return to democracy in 1999. We have not only just had general elections, February 25 for the presidential and the National Assembly elections, March 18 for the governorship and the state houses of assembly election, and then of course on November 11 we had off-cycle elections in Imo State, Kogi State, and Bayelsa State. The general election cycle for 2023 has been completed. We have also had cases at the level of the tribunals and also all the way to the Supreme Court with regard to the presidential election and to the Court of Appeal with regard to other categories of elections. And decisions have been taken, outcomes have been seen. The question for Nigerians at this moment is to ask ourselves, what lessons have we learned? What has been our experience? Now, you will imagine that 24 years after the return to democratic rule, the Nigerians will have learned a number of lessons. In the lead up to 1999, the Third Republic, you recall, for those who are not too young here, that the process, the democratic process in Nigeria was aborted. The Babangida administration had what it called the Third Republic, with 2 political parties, the Social Democratic Party, the National Republican Party, one a little to the left, the other a little to the right, as the military junta described it. But as it turned out, that process was aborted when, in June 1993, the Babangida administration decided to annul the election of February 1993, in which Chief MKO Abiola Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, presidential flag bearer of the SDP, had been adjudged, as the word used adversely, to be the winner of that election, beating Bashir Tofa of NRC, the National Republican Convention, even in his home state of Kano. That took Nigeria through a whole wave of rebellion, of protest, resulting in a situation whereby, and those people at the back stop chatting. I'm making a serious point, please. If you don't want to listen, please you can step out. Now, you know, at which MK Abiola had to do the famous Ekpetedo declaration, in which he declared himself president of Nigeria. He was, of course, arrested and detained for treason. But as it turned out, MK Abiola died in detention, and Abacha also followed. And then, of course, you had Nigeria going through crisis, Nigeria being declared a pariah nation, you had the interim national government, then you had all of that crisis, General Abdulsalami Abubakar taking over and promising that from May 29, 1999, Nigeria will be restored to democracy. And we have had that democracy, 7 general elections, 24 years. You will imagine that Nigerians haven't resolved that never again will the military rule this country, that Nigeria will do better with democracy than what has been our experience. Even with civilians taking over, we have not fared better. And that is the absolute truth. The first general elections in this country were held in September 1923 under the Clifford Constitution, the Clifford Constitution of 1922. The general elections were for 3 legislative positions in Lagos and 1 seat in Calabar. Okay, and the colonialists organized elections in this same country in 1923, 1928, 1933, 1939, and so on and so forth. They also organized the 1959 general elections, which heralded independence. All those elections organized by the colonial authorities. If you compare them to the elections that Nigerians, as independent people, organized, you will see a difference. Nigeria became a republic in 1963. In 1964, we had the first general elections. That 1964 general elections led to Operation West here, the Wild Wild West phenomenon in Western Nigeria. And the chaos generated by those general elections led to crisis 1966 when the military took over. And of course, the Civil War that followed 1967 to 1970. The military remained in power 1966 to 1979 when we had the Second Republic. But the Second Republic, it was Obasanjo that conducted the 1979 election. When it was the turn of the civilians to conduct elections in 1983, the Shagari administration, that election was so badly managed that the military took over, led by General Muhammadu Buhari. From 1983, the military remained in power up till 1999, for a period of 16 years. Even the Third Republic that the Babangida administration promised didn't work out. The annulment of the 1993 general election. So you then assume that since 1999, that Nigeria will fare better. I've given this historical background to prove one point. That the major problem we have in Nigeria with our democracy is about leadership. It's about attitude of our political elite. It's about our institutions. What do I mean by this? In 2007, our democratic process was so bad that the election of 2007 that brought in Yar'Adua and Vice President Jonathan, as he then was even adjudged badly managed by President Yar'Adua himself, on the basis of which he set up what became known as the Uwais Commission. The Uwais Commission was cleared by Justice Mohammed Uwais to look at Nigeria's electoral process to see how it can be made better. Can you imagine a situation whereby a man wins an election and he comes forward and he says he too doesn't believe in the process that brought him to power? So we had that Uwais Commission, which made a number of recommendations about how to improve the integrity of elections in Nigeria. Now, as it turned out, we had the 2011 elections led by President Jonathan and the 2015 elections. In 2011, 2015, the elections were presided over by Professor Atahiru Jega. Nigerians will say that those were better managed elections because the rate of litigation reduced. It was assumed greater transparency. And in 2015, we had the phenomenon of a man losing an election and conceding defeat. So, okay, I lost, fine. Nigeria is more important, which is an example that has been followed in Ghana by President John Mahama, which is an example that has been followed just yesterday or so by President George Weah in Liberia, where, as a result of leadership and character, you have somebody who will say, okay, if I have lost, I have lost. Election is not do or die. Nigerian elections have always been characterized by labels. In 1964, it was Wild Wild West, Operation Wet Team. In 2007, it was do or die. In 2023, it is go to court. If you agree, go to court. So what has been our experience with elections? Overvoting, suppression of voters, violence, ballot snatching, vote buying. In the off-cycle elections just ended, EFCC arrested in at least one state 14 persons. In Kogi State, in Ogurimagongo, results were already published even before the election took place. In 5 local government areas, Ogurimagongo, Adavid, Okitipupa, and other places, the election had to be cancelled. Results had to be cancelled. A by-election was held November 18, that is yesterday. In Bayelsa, there was violence. In Southern Ido, in Brass, in Kolokuma, Okokuma, and Ekeremo, local government areas. There was voter suppression, voter apathy. The question is, we seem not to apply. I'll quickly summarize. One way in which we have tried to address this problem is through what we call electoral reforms. We have been tinkering with the electoral framework in Nigeria since 1999. We have the Electoral Act 2001, 2002, 2006, all the way to the Electoral Act number 6 of 2010. The Electoral Act number 6 of 2010, the National Assembly made an effort to amend it under President Buhari. President Buhari rejected the amendment 5 times. For one reason or the other. On one occasion, he said there were grammatical errors in the bill that was sent to him by the National Assembly. Thereafter, the National Assembly cleaned up the grammatical errors and sent back the same bill. President Buhari said it was too close to the 2019 election. So we lost the opportunity to have a new framework for the 2019 general elections. And as you recall, the 2019 general elections followed the pattern of previous elections. Violence, voter apathy, voter suppression, ballot snatching. But we then got lucky in 2022 when, of course, President Buhari was not seeking another term. He signed a new electoral bill into law. Electoral Act 2022, which was used to conduct the 2023 general elections. There are key characteristics of this Electoral Act 2022. Without boring you, Section 3, subsection 3, which deals with early payment for early disbursement of funds to INEC. Section 47, which deals with BVAS, electronic registration of voters, or as determined by INEC. Section 50, which deals with electronic transmission of results. Section 84, subsection 12, which says if you are a member of a political party or an appointee, you cannot take part in primaries. And other sections dealing with early commencement of campaigns, the rights of disabled people to be voted for and to vote in the election. But with all these innovations, what do we see? Issues about the conduct of the election. So the cycle has been conducted. What are the issues? Nigeria needs to do more by way of electoral reform. We still need to deepen the electoral reform. We need to go back to the Waste Commission report to deal with the independence of INEC, the appointment of the chair of INEC. The Waste Commission recommended that the chairman of INEC should not be appointed by the President of Nigeria. It should be a neutral person. I think that's something we should go back to. 2, we need to go back to the issue about affirmative action, ensuring that we create more space for women. If you look at representation in the Nigerian National Assembly, Nigeria is about 4% in terms of representation. 15 women in the House of Representatives out of 360, 3 women in the Senate out of 109. That's not good enough. Female representation in Rwanda, which is the highest in Africa, is 1.5%. It is 46% in Senegal. It is 45% in South Africa. It is 44.3% in Mozambique. Nigeria is a miserable 4%. If Nigerian women represent half of the population, then they deserve to be better represented in the political decision-making process in Nigeria. Perhaps we also need to look at those sections of the enabling framework dealing with electronic transmission of results, IRM. This is one of the major issues that has come out of the adjudication process. Yakub Mahmoud, the chairman of INEC, assured us that results will be transmitted live, real time. During the presidential election of February 25, what we were told was that there were technical glitches. They had other elections March 18, November 11. Those technical glitches are still there. The courts have ruled in Oyetola versus Adeleke that the issue is not about electronic transmission. That is actually from EC8A, and the manual transmission and the backend server is what is recognized by the courts. Can we take a second look at that? Can we also take a second look at section 84, subsection 12? Within the purview of section 42 and section 40 of the 1999 Constitution. And the question is section 84, subsection 12 discriminatory? And then, of course, our politicians need to take a second look at their attitudes. The security agencies also have to take a second look at themselves. For the presidential election, the Nigeria police deployed 317,000 plus policemen for an election that was taking place in 176,846 polling units. For the election of November 11, the police again deployed over 300,000 policemen, AIGs, manning each senatorial district, commissioners of police, patrol boats in Kogi, in Bayelsa, in Imo, for an election that did not that had 5.1 million voters. What was the outcome? You would think in an off-cycle election the situation will be better. The danger that we face with the phrase "go to court" is that, look, in 2027, people may become so desperate that what we have witnessed in 2023 may be child's play. But we, as the people of Nigeria, we have a right to stand up and to say that our electoral process must be different, our political leaders must change their attitude, and our institutions, especially INEC and the security agencies, need to be strong. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me. See you in 2027.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. Subscription is free. You can call us on 0080 597807 for your event coverage. Thanks.